talk English.
This is fine.
That's a big yikes.
We don't talk about that.
Okay, boomer.
If you have ever heard those phrases dropped into a, like a totally normal face-to-face conversation and just felt this momentary disconnect, well, today we decode meme language.
We really do, yeah. Because it's a whole different world now.
Exactly. We're taking a deep dive into this massive shift in how we speak English today. We are breaking down how phrases that started as these highly specific, honestly, sometimes bizarre visual internet jokes have entirely rewired everyday American English.
Right, and it's so important for advanced English learners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to understand American internet meme culture and actually use the vocabulary, you have to realize that meme culture isn't just this secondary digital-only space anymore.
No, not at all.
It is basically the primary engine driving modern language evolution right now,
Yeah.
especially for anyone under, say, 40.
Yeah, I mean, it functions as this complete linguistic ecosystem. We are looking at a phenomenon where visual shorthand has transitioned directly into spoken syntax.
Which is wild to think about.
Right.
Because language has, it's always been this living, breathing thing. It adapts to new environments. But the infrastructure of the internet has essentially acted as like a particle accelerator for linguistic evolution.
A particle accelerator, yeah. Because what used to take decades, right? Like for a regional slang term to cross borders and become a universally understood idiom that now happens in, what, a matter of days?
Literally days.
4 hours.
I was actually thinking about this exact concept earlier. The way we use these phrases feels like the modern equivalent of creating idioms. Like hundreds of years ago, people started saying it's raining cats and dogs.
Right, which makes zero literal sense.
Zero. But through sheer repetition and just cultural agreement, it became the shorthand for heavy rain. It feels like we are doing the exact same thing right now, just doing it at warp speed.
We absolutely are. And with internet imagery as the baseline, right? That is a perfect framework for understanding this. Modern internet idioms are globally synchronized.
Yeah, globally. When an idiom was coined in the 1600s, it relied on physical trade routes or, migration to spread. Today, a phrase is born in some niche form on Tuesday, it hits critical mass on Wednesday, and by Friday, it's being used to describe a minor inconvenience in a corporate office meeting.
It's so true. And because they spread so fast, they retain this highly specific emotional resonance, which I think brings us to the foundational phrases, the classics.
Oh, the classics, the vanguard memes that successfully made the jump from screens to spoken word.
Yes. And the undeniable heavyweight champion here is, "This is fine."
Definitely. The undisputed king.
We all know the origin by now, I think. It's the 2013 webcomic by Casey Green, where the dog is sitting calmly with a cup of coffee while the entire room is completely engulfed in flames.
Right, just drinking his coffee.
Yeah, but what fascinates me isn't just that people know the image. It's why this specific image became a spoken mantra for so many people.
Well, it survived and thrived because it perfectly compresses a very modern type of anxiety.
Oh, totally.
It is the ultimate verbalization of ironic acceptance. Like when the servers crash at work, your client is furious and you just take a breath and say, well, this is fine.
Right, you aren't actually assessing the situation as fine.
Not at all. You are acknowledging the utter absurdity of trying to maintain your composure when everything is structurally collapsing around you. It gives people this tiny humorous buffer against full-blown panic.
It's a pressure release valve. You just say the phrase, and the person you're talking to immediately downloads the entire image of the burning room and the psychological state of the dog, all in a fraction of a second.
Exactly. It does so much heavy lifting. Another classic that operates similarly is "that escalated quickly."
Oh, a great one.
Right. We trace this back to the 2004 movie Anchorman, which was long before the current algorithmic internet even existed.
Will Ferrell says it after that insane street fight scene, right?
Yes, exactly. And now it is just the standard vocabulary for a situation that abruptly shifts from 0 to 100. It acts as an observational anchor.
Like when an argument gets out of hand.
Yeah, if two people are debating who left the TV remote on the sofa, and within 2 minutes they are fundamentally questioning each other's life choices injecting, well, that escalated quickly. It breaks the tension.
It steps outside the argument and comments on the pacing of the conflict itself. We also see visual formats turning into spoken shorthand, right? Like expectation versus reality.
Oh, yeah. That's everywhere.
We don't even need the side-by-side pictures anymore. You know, the Pinterest perfect cake next to the melted, burnt disaster. The phrase alone triggers the cognitive dissonance. You can just complain that your recent vacation was a major expectation versus reality situation, and the narrative is fully established.
The listener just knows exactly what you mean. You've also got the audacity,
The audacity, yes.
which evolved from a standard English noun into this standalone exclamation of disbelief at someone's negative boldness, like the audacity of that email.
And wait, so is this basically how we're building the new dictionary? Like, we have to mention the early architecture built by phrases like, I don't always do X, but when I do Y.
The Dos Equis beer commercials.
Exactly. While it's largely used ironically now, that specific fill-in-the-blank structure basically trained people to speak in meme templates, didn't it?
It really did. It laid the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
But as our digital lives became more complex, a dog in a burning room wasn't quite enough to capture the nuance of our daily fatigue.
Right, we needed more.
The vocabulary had to evolve to describe highly specific mental states and modern digital habits. And this shift, mostly happening between 2020 and today, gave us what we can call the contemporary modern lexicon.
And my personal favorite from this era is rent-free.
Rent-free is brilliant.
Yeah.
The concept of something living rent-free in your head is just a masterclass in psychological phrasing. It assigns a spatial dimension to cognitive load.
It really does. It's like having an incredibly annoying roommate. Someone who takes up the absolute best real estate in your apartment, constantly leaves a mess in the kitchen, plays loud music at 3 a.m., and somehow isn't paying a single dime for the privilege.
That is the perfect analogy.
Right. When you admit someone or something is living rent-free in your brain, you are confessing to an obsession that entirely lacks a return on investment. Like, why am I still thinking about that embarrassing thing I said in 2018? It's living rent-free.
Exactly. And that awareness of our own bad habits extends to other spatial metaphors too, like touch grass.
Oh, touch grass.
Which is a fascinating imperative. It is a direct spatial command to log off, step outside, and literally physically ground yourself in the real world.
Go outside and touch the grass.
Right. When someone's told to touch grass, they are essentially being diagnosed with a severe loss of perspective, usually brought on by spending way too much time in insular online arguments.
I sometimes wonder, though, if touch grass is actually quite hostile. Like, it doesn't feel like a gentle suggestion to take a lovely walk. It feels like an indictment of your entire current state of mind.
It's definitely a call out.
And it pairs up so frequently with brain rot.
Oh, brain rot is deeply interesting because of its self-awareness. It describes consuming digital content that you know is completely devoid of value, yet you consume it anyway.
Right, like scrolling short-form videos for 3 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the tone is often affectionate or unapologetic. Admitting a reality TV show is pure brain rot is almost a defense mechanism.
Because you beat the critic to the punch.
Right. You own the low quality of the media before anyone else can judge you for it.
It's a linguistic preemptive strike. I love that. We also use these templates to package vulnerability, right? Like real X hours. Saying it's real 3 a.m. anxiety hours somehow makes admitting you are spiraling feel a little bit safer. By framing it as a meme, you make the emotion communal rather than isolating.
It creates instant solidarity. And pop culture continues to feed this machinery too. A phrase like, we do not talk about X.
Oh, from Encanto.
Yes. Originating from that deeply catchy song in the movie Encanto, it has become corporate shorthand for a deeply avoided or shameful topic.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Right. But now you will sit in a board meeting and hear an executive say, we don't talk about the Q3 earnings. And the cultural reference does all the heavy lifting of explaining why it's taboo.
Or the beautiful ambiguity of not X, but also not X. Like if someone asks how a pitch went, and the response is, it was not a disaster, but also not a disaster. That double negative captures a very specific, uncomfortable middle ground that standard vocabulary really struggles to define efficiently.
It's so precise. Then you have main character syndrome, which takes literary and cinematic theory and applies it to everyday narcissism.
Oh man, main character syndrome.
It's the belief that you are the protagonist and everyone else is an NPC, a non-playable character. It can be weaponized as an insult, to describe someone's utter lack of spatial awareness in a grocery store. Or it can be claimed as a momentary empowerment, like deciding to have a main character moment by dressing up for a really mundane errand.
Just going to the pharmacy in a ball gown. The way these phrases describe our internal states is deeply revealing, but the utility goes even further when we look at how meme phrases act as conversational punctuation. The reaction meme vocabulary, We are essentially replacing traditional reactions with a highly evolved syntax of omission.
Reaction phrases are arguably the most heavily utilized segment of this entire lexicon. They act as rapid-fire verbal flinches or nods.
Take big yikes. This isn't just saying oops or that's bad. It is the absolute crystallization of secondhand embarrassment.
Oh, 100%.
If a coworker replies all to the entire company with a snarky comment that was meant for one person, the resulting silence isn't broken with, oh no, it's broken with big yikes. You are actively wincing on their behalf.
It implies a shared cringe. Another highly nuanced reaction is, it hits different.
I use this one all the time.
Most people do. Because it acknowledges how the environment and context fundamentally alter our subjective experience of a thing. A fast food burger at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday is just lunch. But that exact same burger at 2 a.m. after a concert,
It hits different.
it hits different.
The context is the secret ingredient. But the reaction phrase that absolutely fascinates me linguistically is, I can't with X. Like, I genuinely cannot with this spreadsheet right now. It is a literal fragment.
It's an incomplete sentence.
Yes, the sentence is totally incomplete. We have culturally agreed to let the silence at the end of the sentence do all the heavy lifting.
It is a textbook example of high-context communication. In internet subcultures, over-explaining is frowned upon. The omission of the verb I can't deal with, I can't cope with signals that the exhaustion is so profound you literally lack the caloric energy to even finish the thought.
That is hilarious. And so true, the listener's shared cultural knowledge is required to close the loop.
We see that same high-context shorthand in the ironic formal refusal of, that's a no from me, which was popularized by Simon Cowell on American Idol. You aren't just declining, you are adopting the persona of a critical judge rejecting an audition.
And we definitely have to examine the weight of, okay, boomer, as a reaction, because this one comes with a pretty big caution note.
A very big caution note, yes. Emerging around 2019, this became a highly efficient, though notoriously loaded, dismissal. It is used to shut down views perceived as hopelessly outdated or condescending.
Right.
However, for our listeners learning how to use these, it is critical to note its inherent dismissiveness. It draws a hard generational boundary. Depending on the setting and the power dynamic, it can be deeply offensive. It is not just a lighthearted joke, it is a rhetorical door slamming shut.
You definitely do not want to say, okay, boomer, to your boss.
Definitely not.
And really quickly, just to preview where slang is heading next, you're starting to hear things like no cap or fant FR, meaning for real, but that's a whole Gen Z deep dive for another day.
We'll save that for next time.
But that rhetorical power we just talked about leads us to what is arguably the most consequential part of this linguistic shift, the serious graduation. We've talked about fun reactions and spatial metaphors, but some of these terms have completely lost their humor. They have graduated out of the meme ecosystem and secured permanent residency in serious psychological dictionaries.
This is the educational heart of this deep dive. It is the phenomenon of semantic drift occurring at an unprecedented scale. Words transition from clinical or academic origins, they get swept up and simplified by meme culture, and then spit out into the mainstream vocabulary with entirely new weights attached to them. And gaslit is the premier example here.
The pipeline of that word is staggering. I mean, it starts as a 1944 Ingrid Bergman film, Gaslight, about a husband manipulating the literal gas lamps in their home to convince his wife she is losing her grip on reality.
Right, and from there, it was adopted by feminist discourse and psychological academia to describe a very specific, severe form of emotional abuse.
And then meme culture found it.
Exactly. It became an easily digestible format for expressing any kind of manipulation or contradiction. Now, it is ubiquitous. A politician lies about a past statement, and the public says they are gaslighting the electorate. Someone denies eating your leftovers from the fridge, and suddenly they're gaslighting you.
Which begs the question, right? When a heavy clinical word is memeified into everyday use like that, does it dilute the gravity of the actual abuse? Or does it empower people by handing them a vocabulary tool they didn't have before? Because we see the exact same thing with toxic.
Right. Toxic underwent a massive dilution. It used to be a cultural psychology term reserved for deeply damaging environments or behaviors. But through internet repetition, the threshold for what constitutes toxic just plummeted.
Totally plummeted.
A genuinely abusive partner is toxic, sure. But so is a coworker who CCs your boss on a minor email.
Or a video game lobby. A diet can be toxic. A morning routine can be toxic. It just becomes a synonym for bad.
But wait, doesn't mapping these complex terms to minor annoyances make us culturally a bit more fragile? If every disagreement is a trauma and every lie is gaslighting, the words kind of lose their structural integrity.
Well, linguists refer to that exact process as semantic bleaching. The intense meaning of the word is bleached out through overuse. However, the counter-argument is democratization.
Consciousization, okay. Right. Before these terms were memeified, everyday people often lacked the shorthand to quickly identify and communicate manipulative behavior. So, providing the general public with accessible terms like red flag allows them to establish boundaries efficiently.
That makes a lot of sense. Red flag used to be a literal warning on a racetrack or a beach. The internet codified it as an early warning system for dating or employment. Now, a hiring manager might legitimately write down that a candidate's lack of questions was a red flag.
Exactly. Similarly, the meme format, Normalize X, started as a joke demanding acceptance for bizarre behaviors. But now, it operates as a totally serious framework for social advocacy. We see campaigns to normalize mental health days or normalize career changes at 40.
And situationship. That fundamentally filled a lexical void. There's no good word for an ongoing romantic entanglement that lacked the formal boundaries of a relationship, but was way more complex than a casual friendship.
Right, it was just complicated.
The internet essentially crowdsourced a new noun to define modern dating ambiguity, and now it's recognized by major dictionaries.
It proves that meme culture is highly efficient at identifying gaps in standard English and manufacturing bespoke terminology to fill those gaps.
So the utility of this vocabulary is undeniable, but, and this is a big but for our learners out there, attempting to integrate these words into your daily life carries a significant social risk.
A huge risk.
Knowing the definition of touch grass doesn't mean you should deploy it at the next shareholder meeting. There are structural rules to this language, and violating them results in the ultimate internet sin.
Being cringe.
Cringe, which is the visceral, secondhand embarrassment caused by someone attempting to navigate a culture they don't fully understand. To avoid it, there are 4 implicit rules of engagement. Rule number 1 is audience awareness.
You have to read the room.
Exactly. This is a high-context language, so you only use it with a high-context audience.
Rule number 2 is the death of the joke. If you have to explain the meme, you have already failed. If you say, this is fine, and then feel compelled to add, like that dog in the burning room comic, the linguistic magic evaporates instantly.
Yeah.
It's gone. Just poof, gone. Rule number 3 dictates that using outdated terminology, unironically, is the fastest path to cringe. Digital language decays rapidly. Holding on to a phrase from a decade ago and deploying it earnestly signals a profound disconnect from the current cultural pulse.
But then there's the irony loop of rule number 4, which is so tricky. Using an outdated meme knowingly with heavy performative irony is considered vintage and highly acceptable.
But it requires an incredibly delicate touch.
Although delicate.
For example, YOLO, you only live once. That peaked around 2012. It is completely obsolete as earnest advice. If you use it today, your tone must be dripping with irony, usually to justify a remarkably mundane or slightly irresponsible decision, like eating a second slice of cake.
Right. YOLO. Whereas this is fine operates outside that decay curve. It achieved classic status and remains in active, earnest use. Meanwhile, Big Yikes is slowly fading but still functional, and Touchgrass is currently operating at peak cultural saturation.
Navigating this requires constant recalibration. You have to instinctively understand where a phrase sits on its life cycle curve.
All right, let's test that instinct with a quick drill. A few real-world scenarios to see how this syntax of omission and reaction actually plays out in real time. You ready?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Okay, scenario 1. Imagine a team meeting where a minor logistical disagreement about a project timeline suddenly pivots into a deeply emotional argument about the company's lack of moral vision. The meeting adjourns. What is the immediate verbal debrief in the hallway?
Oh, that is a textbook. Well, that escalated quickly. The phrase instantly diffuses the lingering tension by highlighting the absurdity of the pivot.
Exactly. Okay, scenario 2. You are lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, and your brain decides to replay a slightly awkward conversation you had with a cashier 3 years ago.
That cashier is currently living rent-free in my head.
Yes. Scenario 3. Let's say you've been working from home for 5 straight days, you've been arguing with strangers in a comment section for 2 hours, and your friend finally texts you to intervene.
They are going to tell me, quite bluntly, to go touch grass.
Perfect. And finally, scenario 4. You step outside, you actually touch the grass, you grab an iced coffee, and because you've been cooped up for a week, that standard coffee tastes like a profound revelation.
Because of the spatial and psychological shift, that coffee hits different.
Nailed it. The precision is what makes this so fascinating. Mastering this isn't an exercise in trying to sound perpetually young. It is about understanding the incredibly subtle emotional undercurrents of how modern humans are trying to communicate their anxieties, their humor, and their boundaries in an overwhelmingly noisy digital age.
The overarching takeaway is that dismissing internet memes as frivolous digital detritus is a mistake. They are the scaffolding of a living, breathing language.
Before we wrap up, let's just do a really quick vocabulary focus for our learners. We covered a lot today.
We did. Okay, so first, meme. An image, video, or piece of text, typically humorous in nature, that is copied and spread rapidly by internet users.
Irony. Using language that normally signifies the opposite, typically for humorous or emphatic effect.
Gaslight. To manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning.
Rent-free.
Yeah.
When a person or situation occupies your thoughts consistently, despite not deserving the mental energy.
And touch grass. A command telling someone to log off the internet and reconnect with reality.
Perfect. Which leaves a rather provocative historical question to mull over. If internet memes are effectively the idioms of the modern era, what happens to this language in 50 or 100 years?
That is a wild thought.
Right. Think about our current idioms. We say, let the cat out of the bag to describe revealing a secret. Most of us have zero idea what the origin of that phrase is. The original context is totally dead, but the linguistic utility survived.
Right.
So, will "this is fine" become a mysterious, untraceable idiom to a generation in the 22nd century? Will they use it perfectly without ever knowing about the webcomic of the dog in the burning room?
It's highly likely.
Just like the cat in the bag, we are actively inventing the confusing, contextless idioms of the future right now. Keep that in mind the next time you accuse someone of living rent-free in your head. So, which meme phrases have you been using without knowing the origin? Tell us in the comments.
We'd love to hear them.
And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss next week's deep dive.